episode. I am your humble host, Westfox. I'm joined by my brothers, Shepard and the Southhound. And today we're talking one of our shows that we reference actually a lot. We reference Avatar: Last Airbender
quite often
because we consider it near perfection when it comes to storytelling. And recently Netflix put it on their service, and we all, well, I don't know, Phil, did you watch it all, Philip? Rewatch it?
We'd actually I bought all the seasons about 3 or 4 months ago for my wife to watch. So we just saw it.
So
of course it comes on Netflix after you buy them.
Right.
And I know. So, seriously.
Buy media, though. I will say, as we talked about, buy media because
that's true.
They keep editing stuff. So soon this show might not exist in the way that we think it does.
But it's digital. It's digital media.
So
anyway, mine's digital, so it's still not completely protected. Well,
that's true.
See that right in there.
Hard copies are really important. Anyway, getting back to watching the show, it was great watching it after not having watched it for a few years, realizing how good this show is. I would say the only weak episodes in it, and it actually was interesting. There's a few episodes that I thought were weaker when I watched it as a younger man, which was specifically the secret adventures of Ba Sing Se.
Yes, I had the same exact thing.
When I watched those when I was 18 or something like that. Those were actually my least favorite episodes. However, watching them as an adult, an older person, those episodes were actually
from 28 to 35.
Right? No, 18 to like 35. Were actually really well done, and some of the nuance in the show stands out even more. I'd say the first 10 episodes were probably you see the show finding its feet in those first 10 episodes or so. But after that, the show only picks up steam. I think that the show really finds its groove when Toph joins the group. I think her dynamic adds so much to the group dynamic. Like when she joins it changes the balance in such a great way. And from then on, and also there's a lot of shakeup there because you have both the villain shakeup. You have Zuko begin his redemption arc. We had mentioned it, and really all the main characters, again, this is why we love this show. All the characters have great arcs. Every character, every main character has an arc in it. Every character that has a decent amount of screen time has a level of they go somewhere, they learn something. And it's what, when we compare these things like the Star Wars movies and Star Trek shows and all these things where the characters have no arc, you go, look at this. This is a 20-minute, there's not even 60 episodes, 50 episodes or so total. There's 20 something and there's
something like that.
It's a small amount of time. They're 20-minute episodes.
I think it's 2020 and 24. If I remember correctly, I think it's 2020 and 24.
No.
Or 2020, 21.
Well, and I
think there's 20 in the first 2 seasons, and then I think the final season has like 2 extra compared because it's like the 4-part Sozin's Comet.
Well, and they squeeze so much into it. That's what makes it impressive. So, we'll kind of go through some of the characters here. We have kind of our good old tier list here, and the one thing that I'd say is I almost don't even think there's a D tier character in here. Usually there'd be an F tier character in most things. I don't know if there's even technically a D tier. The only way I'd say there's a D tier character when it comes to Avatar: Last Airbender is because we don't know them enough to actually know them as a character. Is the only
detriment to them.
I'm Judy. I'm Judy. Welcome to Ba Sing Se. There is no war outside the wall of Ba Sing Se.
But I mean, I was thinking of her, but she is a character. But her character is actually quite interesting because she shows almost like I said the grip of the government on them as people.
Well, she's not actually a character. Yeah, she's a mentality. She's actually not a character. She's actually the poster child for,
so actually,
like you said,
we'll put that in there.
Government control.
She's actually like almost a B tier character for that reason because she tells you so much by not being a character. By her fact that she's not a character shows you like, oh, this place is somewhat terrifying. And I think that's why.
Unlike other shows, we might know use androids as walls, looking at you, Picard.
Right.
Just stand-ins.
Literally. I mean, this character.
You're my door, but you're an android. That's about it.
Yeah, this character, through the lack of knowing stuff, tells you so much. So then we have, if there's a character that's C tier, It's only because they're comic relief, like Cabbage Guy. I mean,
Like Cabbage Guy.
Yeah, you know.
Comedy, almost like a C tier's comic relief.
Cabbages.
You know, they're funny.
No.
They're funny. Like, but there's nothing bad.
Okay, well, along with The Rock, the Boulder, the Boulder.
too,
Sorry,
yeah.
The Boulder.
Yeah, the Boulder too.
The Boulder
will knock you under a rock-a-lanche. Well, he's the Rock. He is the Rock.
The Rock.
Boulder's the Rock.
Right. He is.
Yeah, he's supposed to be the Rock.
Exactly. So that's a cute little homage. That's funny.
Yeah, and I
It's
would
subtle
say, like,
enough where it's not like in
Pipsqueak.
your face. Like, okay,
If actually, if it's
Pipsqueak, Smeller, B.
yeah, I mean, they're C tier. They're not bad characters. They're just not developed, right? So we're just for those guys in here because they're not developed characters.
Yeah.
They're not ones that you go, oh my gosh, these are new. Wait, did I throw Pipsqueak, Smeller B, and there was another character. Let's see, and this kid too.
You got
See,
him, yeah.
See,
He's
and
in
of course, there's someone who, while only in one, make a huge change in a character. And that's the old creepy bloodbending lady, and I would call her a B class character
Yes, I was.
because
Yeah.
she makes
going-
more impact.
She drives an
Going
interesting
than-
element of the
than-
story as
Yeah.
teaching because she
Also-
expands
also-
Katara's arc and shows her
Knowledge base.
a separate path. She shows Katara, a path. It's almost the Doctor Who style, the Time Lord Victoria stuff. She's kind of comes from that like level
Yeah.
of I am the power, and so she kind of gets corrupted by her own power, even though that there's a level of righteous vengeance that she is doing. The problem is not aimed at the people that actually are that did it to her. So it's kind of injustice in itself. It's not like, oh, I'm taking out the
Yes.
leaders that pulled me. She's just taking out random citizens who are just living their day-to-day life inside of the Fire Nation, which in itself we see is indoctrinated. They're literally they're kind of almost a North Korea type indoctrination where they're like, yes, every other nation is peasants and we're saving them from being this, and they're actually evil,
Yeah.
and we're the righteous saviors, and you're like, oh no, you're not.
Well, that's always something interesting when you kind of get to hear when you get to find out about Roku and Sozin originally, where you kind of started learning. It's like, Sozin's whole point was, quote unquote, well, we're having such prosperity here in the Fire Nation. Shouldn't we share that with the world? And you're like, yeah, but your version of sharing is taking over.
Is running everything. And I put him as a
Yeah.
B-tier character.
Yeah, conquest.
Do you see the
It's
B-tier
a Greek.
character too?
It's the Greek and Roman model. We'll give you peace
Do you
at
see
our sword.
I was gonna say, do you see Sozin as a B tier or
B.
A tier?
I might put him as an A, just
B.
because I mean,
No,
it's like his actions.
He's not
his
there long
actions
enough.
I know, but his actions are what influence the entire story.
But does he have an
I'd say
It's
his
him and
character's too
Roku's story.
one-dimensional.
Okay, yeah,
His character's too one-dimensional because it's only
see that.
to be an antagonist to Roku. I would also say that I would even put Roku. I'd put Roku at a B. While he's part of the story, he's a mentor character, so maybe he's got a little bit more dimension than Sozin. So maybe you could bump him up to A. But Sozin himself is merely a temporary antagonist. And he says, I
in
want
one
conquest.
episode, yeah.
And then he gets offset because the Avatar is his friend until he can kill the Avatar and then continue on his conquest. The reasons for his conquest, for I want to spread prosperity, I'd say that's
I'll let you go.
pretty
Shepard.
one-dimensional for a character.
All right, Shepard, you convinced me.
Here would be my second part of it though. Like I said, I get what you're saying as characters, maybe they're not the most dimensional, but again, then Roku and Sozin are important to who Zuko is, because they're his grandfathers, both of them. So it's like their characters and them have a huge impact in some of the more important characters. So I agree with you, but there's that portion that's like, it's like I'd almost put him like
That's
a B
who they
plus,
are.
Like between the
That's not what they were. Just because
I
they're
know.
genealogically
I'm gonna put him as a B
doesn't
right
make her
now,
better.
only because neither of you have committed me to be better than B. I'm gonna put him at B right now because I feel like there's other characters.
Yeah, I'd say
that we go
B.
through
I think
here,
B is perfectly fine.
And we see characters after we can maybe adjust when we see like, maybe they are more. Because I look at a character like the sword instructor who I put as an A, because in his one episode he shows more character. Well, he's technically in the finale.
Yes.
But in his one episode, I would say he does show more character.
Well, he shows more character in that he's not one-dimensionally nationalization, right? He wants, there's a couple things he says. I want to teach the best of the best. I want to teach people willing to learn. I'm also not dedicated to one nation. I'm dedicated to a process of learning the sword, which goes above nations. And he challenges Sokka. He's not just, I actually hate the Fire Lord.
Yeah, he's not
Yeah.
a hyper nationalist character. He views the world as a much bigger place. So let's see. Let's move on to. I would put this guy as a also at. Is he a B?
Oh
No.
I'd say a D. To be honest with you, it's not even a character. He's a
I'd
paid
say
merc. He's like,
Okay. I'm
yeah,
okay
he's
with that.
like the
fails.
boulder. The
He
boulder's
fails, and he
fun,
gets
but yeah,
captured.
he's not a bad character, but he doesn't. So both these guys would be.
yeah,
They're-
exactly.
They're not.
Yeah.
Really, they're just kind of plot.
It's not that they're
devices.
bad. They're just
That's fine.
they're plot devices. Exactly. And they're not good ones. They're not like Judy is a plot device, but like I said, there's a hidden symbolism behind that says a lot to you. These guys are just, hey, our daughters needs to be captured. They're like, okay, money, cool. And they're so temporary, their characters.
pretty much their characters are only there so Toph can learn metal bending and show off.
That's right. Exactly.
I mean, that's really her whole point. Is like they're pretty much their most important line is you can't metal bend, little girl, and her being in the cage and going,
Oops,
I'm gonna prove you wrong.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. True.
Also, just funny. I don't know if any of you ever noticed, but you know the guy who is the instructor, the one that we have on the D level there. He's the voice of the uncle from Jackie Chan Adventures. One more thing.
Yeah.
It's the same guy.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So let's see.
Actually, the guy's a great voice. He voices that character very well. So
Yeah,
it
a slimy
wasn't
little
your kill.
annoying.
No,
I'm gonna put
it
these two.
wasn't that.
So I'm gonna put these two together. This is the inventor and his son, and I feel these are both B tier characters because they do develop the plot, but their arc is small. They're essentially like, oh, I need to change from being controlled by the Fire Nation to. And they do have a large impact on the plot overall, actually, as characters because they're
kind
very
of. Well, yeah, they
relatable.
participate. They do participate.
In
Well,
a
the
way,
inventor.
say
I mean,
the dad
the
would be more B.
inventors.
I'd say the kid would be more C.
Yeah, I would agree with Southhound. I would put the
C?
kid more
Okay.
as a C.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
He was pretty minimal.
He's there
Let's
just to
see.
piss the Avatar off as an abuser until he's like, oh, he's disabled. I can't pick on him. He can
so
fly.
the leader of the leader
Which is kind of
of
mean.
I'm gonna put this one here. So the leader
I
of the Tai Chi, or sorry, not the Tai Chi,
The Dai Li.
the Dai Li.
Dai Li.
Lex Luthor.
He's actually a
Lex
really good
Luthor from Justice League. Yeah.
He's actually a really good villain.
Seriously.
Because he has his own motivations.
Yeah, actually
inside
is.
of the story. He actually has his reasons. Now, granted, his reasons are pretty much selfish, but he does have motivations that make sense. His are control, and he views the thing. He's like, I'm going to run my war. It's going to go on for 100
Right.
years the way I believe it should be ran. We're going to leave the king doing his own thing and let him tilly-tally around. I don't want to interfere with my space.
Yes.
you know,
Go play with Bosco the bear and do whatever you want, King, and I'll actually run this sucker.
Yeah. So, and I think as
Right.
a villain, as a villain, he's outplayed by Azula, who we'll get to later. But I mean,
Which is awesome.
He's so confident in his own people. He's like, haha, I'm the most powerful. And they're like, because he created this group.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but Azula's
I'll admit the
scary.
having rewatched that, I think they could have done a better job in fomenting the traitorous action of the Dai Li. Because you have to remember, sure, the Dai Li may have been serving what's his name again?
Fang. Is it Long Fang?
Long Fang.
Is that his name?
It-
I think
yeah,
it's Long
basically
Fang. Yeah.
serving him instead of the king. But there's a huge difference between serving a man, just a little bit
Who's still
different, as
working
opposed
in
to
the Earth
betraying your
Kingdom?
entire,
I think they
as
viewed
opposed
it-
to betraying your entire country.
It would be interesting to see
So I felt that
why the reasoning for them
that
to do it. I
needed a
kinda-
little more work. Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah.
I think that
Because really the only reason they
was-
say it is because like they kind of the only time they ever say it is one time where I think the Dai Li's talking to Long Fang when he's still in the prison and he's like, everything's working well with the Fire Nation princess. She's quite a leader. And it's kind of like that's like the line said. It's like she inspires both fear and it's like that's the one thing they say. Then after that they turn,
Well,
and you're like,
I think
yeah,
too,
okay, it's a
because-
little like,
Well, and I think too because inherently the Dai Li were corrupt, they were willing to do
Right.
anything inside of their thing. So I think that's why that they fell. Again, that's probably a little more advanced than the show ever goes into in that. But in a structural thing, they were willing to disobey the king, pretty much. I mean, even on the thing, they were almost on the wall. They almost didn't take him down. They were pretty much like, "Do we arrest our commander?" So I think there was that since there's an inherent root
Right.
of
Do
disloyal-
we trip down our wall? Yeah, I get you.
So
An
I think
inherent
that-
corruption. So it's like, okay, well, whatever.
And since she was such a
Sell my
strong
soul.
leader against him, yeah. Again, I can see what you're saying. But anyway, moving on, we have our buddy Jet here. I put him into a C, to be
Wait,
honest.
Did he die?
Yeah, I do too.
Because
I
he
actually
never
hate his
actually-
character.
He actually never grows. He's
Did he
a
die? Oh,
he's actually a real
Did he ever
character.
die?
Well,
You know, it wasn't very clear.
he's a good character.
Yeah, they didn't
because
keep that very clear.
Well, he's a good character because he's a real character. And he's one of those characters that if they ever did a live action version of the show, it's a hard character to do without making the show more adult. And I don't mean like
Risque adult.
Game
but-
of Thrones or Witcher dark, but
Right.
but like Lord of the Rings level.
Pragmatic
where-
dark.
Yeah, where characters
This is what war
Mhm.
looks like.
he's willing. I mean, he's willing to kill 100 people in pretty much cold blood, maybe even more. You know, essentially in cold blood through a tidal wave. You know, essentially drowning at that.
Yeah.
Between 100. I don't know.
Yeah,
people in the-
drowning
it's
a village.
100
I mean,
people. It's both kind of cowardly, and it wasn't really directional at any individuals. Like we're just gonna wipe this village out, so type thing. And
Yeah,
so,
it's the same thing with like the bloodbender. You know,
Yeah.
attacking innocent civilians as a way to get back
just
at the
revenge- yeah,
military
kind of
structure that's
blind
attacking.
revenge.
Yeah.
yeah. If
and
I see
he's-
Fire Nation, then they clearly need to have an arrow in their back, and you're like, well, that's
Well, I mean, and they show how obsessed he was. You know, I mean, he was stalking
Mhm.
Iroh and Zuko for 3 episodes, trying to like prove that
that they were firebenders.
they're firebenders, and it actually essentially gets him killed in the end. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
he pushed the boundaries and got kind of crazy. So, as a character, he's one that actually probably least for how much screen time he has. He's probably, and it's not a ton of screen time, but considering he's in a couple episodes, he's probably one of the characters that never actually has any development, and then he's essentially brainwashed and then dies.
Yep. And then dies.
Yeah.
But like I said, he's an interesting story arc where not everyone is redeemed inside of it. Because his friends, his allies, are redeemed. They do learn.
Yes.
Yeah, they
do
join the
learn.
Avatar in his fight.
So they kind of learn to be more peaceful there. So that's interesting. Okay, interesting one
And
here.
remember,
So-
the worst episode is the one that everyone unanimously hates, The Great Divide. That's unanimously the worst episode.
I think that is the
And
most.
that's why
I think that is the most filler.
Yes.
The only other episode that
That's
I
why-
really
that's
don't
why-
like.
That's why
You know, there's one that I would say
when they're like, "Hey, there's a big giant canyon. Do we want to go visit that?" They're like,
no.
and they just
Yeah,
continue
it's-
flying.
I'd say the only other one that kind of annoys me, and I mean, I guess there's somewhat of a story arc there, but it's the stupid hippies when they have to go through the tunnel under the mountain,
love tunnel. Yeah,
the love tunnel one.
That was a
Like
big
that.
filler, yeah.
It's like that one's like
tunnel. Secret tunnel. Where we gonna go to? Secret
it's-
tunnel.
it is funny.
Tunnel.
Yeah.
So,
All you want is for Katara and Aang to kiss in that episode. That's like its only purpose.
right? You're like
Is to
Yeah.
foreshadow
you're
a
like
relationship.
you're like
That's it.
sexual tension, but like prepubescent sexual tension. So it's like,
Yes, seriously.
you're cute. I'm
You're like-
cute. Should we kiss? No.
Do you want to kiss? And everyone's like, yes, do it. Wait, are we rooting for 13, 14-year-olds to make out? Don't worry about it. If you think too hard, it'll hurt you.
yeah, shush, 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 shush.
So moving on, we'll go to Zuko's mother. I feel like a C tier only because she doesn't have any
Yeah.
level of development other
Yeah.
than her kind of cut scenes, and which is kind of an unfortunate part of the show.
It's more for Zuko than it's about her.
Yeah, it's just showing her talking. But as a character, she's not a bad character or a good character. We just don't know enough about her to really.
Yeah. And
We don't know why her kids turned out.
they actually don't do any other justice later. They did finish her story in a comic.
Yeah, I know that.
And I happen to read all those, and her story is pretty lame and lackluster. I mean, it's pretty stereotypical. Was in love with a circus performer, was a normal peasant. Fire Lord Ozai sees her, says, I want her, daddy. So brings her back to the palace, marries her. She doesn't want to. Of course, they have kids. Zuko. Well, actually, you find no, I'm wrong. Sorry. It's even worse, actually. They actually kind of made her a whore because she has sex with her previous paramour, and that's actually who Zuko is. Zuko is not even related to Fire Lord Ozai, and that's why I hated those comics.
What,
because
really?
Oh,
that's what they did. That's why the moment they finished Avatar, they totally went full stupid and went so far overboard with it. And that's why Korra's terrible too, because that's what they did in that comic strip, that Zuko is this other dude's baby daddy.
I'm looking that up. Hold on.
I read it.
That's a bummer.
We might
I got
have
the
to,
digi.
Hold on. Let's see. Father.
Well, I gotta admit, because I've kind of read the Spark notes of most of those comics, and I kind of like hear all of them, and I'm like, because I think like in the comics, then like Suki and Sokka stop being together, so like that they actually aren't in a relationship by the end of the comics. Like the few comics that they do on there, there's changes. I think things when Mai are no longer together, and there's some changes there too, and you're like, why do you got to do that?
Wow.
Like, you know what? You gave characters a love interest at the end of the show, and then you're like, just kidding. There's 3 comics that are going to destroy them all.
Yeah, that's why comics suck, because who knows who writes them, to be honest. You know, knowing how all these other comics book, I don't even know if they were written by the main guys or they actually really thought about it, because I think they're done. Anyway, moving on. I don't know if that's confirmed on that one. I'm not going to say yes or no. Either way, so we'll put her there. The owl from the Great Library, he's a C tier.
All right, so here it is right here. Zuko's biological father is actually Ikem, not Ozai.
Okay.
So there you go.
Well,
And the bird's name is Wong.
I couldn't believe
Wong Chiton. Just
well, like I said, I hate that stuff. I don't like when they do that stuff. It was like trying to like, well, this is why Zuko was good, because it was that's why his dad would kill him, and which actually makes his father even less dimensional. It's one thing to say I'm willing to kill my child who is kind of weak in my eyes. That's far more gives you far more understanding of the evilness of this guy's character, as opposed to, oh, don't worry, he's not my son anyway. He's just some bastard brat my wife created with her former paramour. You know, that's like, what's up with that?
Well, and then doesn't that technically destroy the whole point of Zuko's 2 grandfathers being Roku and Sozin? That he's having an inner fight.
Yeah.
If then his dad's not then has anything to do with Sozin.
Yes, exactly.
No, because his mother's side is Roku, but you're supposed to, for the dad's side is clearly supposed to be Sozin. So to get rid of that, then you're like,
all right. So,
you destroy his major.
These people
yeah.
create these things and they don't care. They just retcon. They don't give a
we're
crap
gonna pause
about this
that
stuff.
one, because that just goes down. Like I said, the comic stuff I hate, because I hate the comic read.
Yeah. We won't say anymore, but I just want to make that point. That's a bummer that they then
goes down
destroy
the road.
that
I
kind of
I
thing.
don't even care. Okay. Just because it gets danced. The owl, we move back to owl. C is fine.
Owl C.
He's one thing.
Wong Chiton.
Who cares?
Actually, I'll put him as a D. This kid, he's the Sam Bender that steals. Appa.
I mean that's
if you steal Appa, you're a D tier.
Right, you're a D.
You're a D. You're a D. Literally.
Where's Appa? Pissed off, eh?
Right.
Ooh, he is S tier. I want to put him King.
No, I'd say A tier.
King Boomy is hilarious.
Oh, King Boomy is awesome.
I agree. His character's great.
And
okay, fair enough. I'll agree with you. I'll go.
Because
I'll
in multiple
agree.
ones, and he teaches Aang a lot in multiple episodes, because he goes back a couple times where he's like, we must wait. And so he's in enough episodes to be interesting to me as a character. He has enough layers of silliness that I enjoy it.
Well, and I have to say, just in general, I have to say, just in general, I think that many of the characters any of the characters who were part of the White Lotus are definitely far more interesting, you know, kind of get a little like, you know, all of them have a very deep or interesting storyline of kind of why I wish we know more for a lot of them, like Iroh specifically.
Oh, yeah.
I always want to know when he became part of the Order of the White Lotus. That is something I've always been curious.
Don't say that, because they're going to make some terrible retcon.
Well, let's not go down the retcon argument over that. You can say it on everything. So the king of Bossing Say is a C tier to me, because
C.
I think he's D. What do you think, Christopher?
I think D.
He's nothing. I mean, he really is nothing.
He's waffly. I'm okay with that.
It literally when he finally learns, then he just retreats. He's just like, I'm just going to go ride on my bear. Later,
I think
everyone
this
else.
is
Screw
Sokka's
off.
dad.
He's like, let me go out into the tram. Oh man, there is a war going on. Get me back to the palace.
Right. So Sokka and Katara's dad.
C for Sokka's dad.
I was gonna put him as a B just because he's a kind of a mentor, just like these other characters in there.
I mean, I agree. At least what I can be thankful about is that they do a good job.
Justice.
They as a father having to sacrifice his life to defend his tribe, being injured. What was the, I don't know, because you guys finished it right recently. What was Katara's beef with her dad again? She gets really butthurt with him. What was the beef about?
She's mad that he left.
Yeah, it was
really what it came down to. She was just
she's still upset about that.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit odd, admittedly, because when she Aang wakes up after the thing and he's like, "Oh, why are you so mean to your dad?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" And then you find out it's mostly like, she felt abandoned.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was like an episode of script that got cut out because that was between the 2 seasons.
Right.
I've always wondered so.
It wouldn't surprise me.
It's 2004.
If there was something that got cut out, maybe some discussion, or like there was something that maybe happened to the characters during those scenes that showed the level of her kind of being irritated with him on something. Because it does feel a little bit out of the blue. It's not a major thing. They resolve it. It's more, and then granted, teenagers do things that teenagers do. They get butthurt. Welcome to teenagers.
Seriously.
What can you do? Let's see.
But I think they did the reason I like it, I think they did a good job. They didn't make him this douchey father.
Yes, it was good to see.
Yeah,
good father. Totally.
And even when under attack by his daughter, he's very meek and he's very loving and gentle towards her. So I thought that was
So
thumbs up.
Well
thumbs
done.
up, guys.
Moon Spirit Girl. See.
UA.
See.
Yeah.
Just because she doesn't have enough screen time.
She's merely a vehicle.
And here's
she's just a vehicle to die. To save the Moon Spirit. That's all.
She's just so Sokka can say, "My first girlfriend turned into the moon," and Zuko can just look at him and go, "That's rough, buddy."
Right.
That's rough, buddy. I mean, that's.
So I'll say this: that in the sense of the show, most of these characters would be an A tier in most shows nowadays.
Right.
The lower
Seriously.
ones have more depth and stuff we see nowadays.
Just a piece of dialogue. The boulder would be an A class tier compared to most crap.
We're being giving a curve because otherwise we're comparing the show to its own characters and its own arc. We're not comparing these into like a D tier in this show is not a D tier to other shows. It is a D tier inside of its own show, not because people go, "Oh, this character sucks." And if we pull up another show in the future and go, "Oh, we're watching insert Star Trek characters on the newer stuff," or gosh dang, some other
F.
Yeah. Well, like already looking through what we have really in the B's and the C's, what you clearly see is most of those characters, obviously, they're more about helping build our major characters.
Totally.
What they do helps, more for them than it, and it's nice because it's like, okay, you don't always need every character to be something if they're helping it in a good way, if they're building up the other characters or they're helping their development. That's called good writing.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put the general. I'm gonna put as an A tier villain.
I'd say B.
I'll tell you why I'll argue an A. Even though he is one dimensional, he does have because he has one motive, but he does have a level of ingenuity and he does have personality behind him, because even when Iroh's like, "Put it down," he's like, "Okay, fine."
He's like,
F that. He makes decisions inside the story that follow his character, which is he literally goes. He's the reason the owl wants to kill anybody. He goes into the library is because of him. So I feel like
because he's destroyed all the fire, right?
Yeah, and he did have the tactical knowledge to destroy the library of everything Fire Relation. So I feel as him, yes, he's a one-dimensional general, but you also do hate him because he does have layers. Because he throughout the show also is very.
He's for one season.
Is very slimy, because even when Zuko beats him, he tries to kill Zuko shadily. Like he is.
He tries to attack him after the Agni Kai.
He's also the one who tries to blow up the ship.
Well, he tries to.
Pirates. So he's very.
Blows the ship to pirates. Is willing to strike him at the end of an Agni Kai. That's
he's consistent
pretty
as a character,
cowardly.
even though he's.
I mean, he's willing to kill one of the spirits just You know,
So-
like he's willing to kill a spirit for ultimate.
He's also
power.
stupid.
And that's why I put him as an A, is because he is actually
Okay.
a pretty good villain.
I
'cause
can
he is
accept
a
that.
legit threat. Because I also have to put
Yes.
the Fire Lord in the A too. And again, only because he
Yep.
is such a threat.
One-dimensional.
He is truly a one-dimensional character, but he is the big bad of the show. So I feel like he deserves that spot. And because he is designed to be the big bad, he's never meant to be redeemed.
Oh, yeah.
No, well, see, that's what I was going to say.
Later character. He's meant to be
It's like
Palpatine to the Darth Vader type thing.
exactly, and that's what I was. Oh, I mean, which is what I was going to say is that's what makes good bad guys. You tend to introduce a bad guy, and then once they're either neutered or defeated partially, or kind of you're like, man, this is the bad guy. You always want to add someone above them, so as to create the ability to save or redeem the person below them. Because eventually you have to have an ultimate bad guy, right? You can't just keep redeeming everybody.
Right.
Because it means nothing then. It's
Right.
like,
Yeah.
okay,
Redemption
well, you
has
can
to
get
be-
away with, you can do whatever you want. And the
Right.
good guys will redeem you.
As we're getting slower to the end. I'd say Boomy Boomy Boomhead is probably
Fire.
D tier. We'll put him
Sparky,
Yeah, because
Sparky
he's just a
Boom Man.
machine.
Yeah,
he's
Sparky.
just Sparky,
Yeah.
Sparky Boom.
He was just a-
I mean, he's
he-
just
he's
he's
just a
just
brute.
he's no different than a tank. You know,
Yeah,
it's like
he's
who?
just a tank. He's not really a character. He never has a
Yeah.
line. He just blows crap up. I also put.
Yep.
I would actually put. This one's a tricky one because between B or C. This is Aang's mentor from
Monkiatsu.
Mongiato. I'd probably have to say B only because he does
I would
help
say it-
mentor it, and this line is kind of the mentors to the characters here at different levels. If you notice, and I feel
I
like
was
that
going to say
works.
C because he wasn't very wise. I mean, okay,
He
imagine
helped
this.
He did help develop Aang's personality. But go
True.
ahead, make your argument.
But why? Well, the reason I was going to say is he kind of makes a big faux pas. One, there's a giant war that everyone knows is coming, and he doesn't want to tell Aang. And then maybe let's say if they had gone with you, Aang might have died or been destroyed, or you never would have known he was the Avatar, even if he did get frozen somewhere. And it was like, crap, what just happened? And then two, he kind of, I think, while I agree, developed Aang's personality, he also kind of depressed the natural responsibility of what that recognized for the Avatar. And Aang kind of grabs onto that for a very long time. Like, I'm just a kid. I'm just a child. This shouldn't be at my feet. And, you know, Monkiatsu is almost an antagonistic character, not intentionally so, but almost puts a block in his brain for overcoming because eventually Aang has to overcome that to recognize he needs to take responsibility as the Avatar and not run away
Actually,
from
I
it.
mean, puts him as a B tier then because he has layers to him because he's meant to be a good guy. He is a good guy, but maybe he unintentionally
enough.
through his thing is causing a negative impact because he was going. I mean, I don't totally agree with your premise, but I will agree that he was going to kidnap Aang, or at least take. I don't say kidnap is strong. He was going to take Aang away.
He was going to take him.
He was going to take Aang
Yep.
away to change the path. So there is a level that he inadvertently has an interesting path in his own way. He was meant to be. He was a high level leader, but he does have some questionable actions. So I actually like that. So I think I'm actually going to force it into a B now. Let's see.
Well, you're welcome.
Korra's trainer. I actually put him as an A, I think, or B.
Katara. Don't you dare
Sorry.
use that
Sorry.
whore's name. Katara.
Grandpaku.
I have to say he's in enough. I'm gonna put him as an A because he actually does
Yeah.
develop as a character, and he does teach her, and he forces her down to make some choices. And we do get to see him later on interacting with. Well, he does become his grandpapa, and they're like, "Don't."
Grandpaku.
Well, and he doesn't. While he does stick to the traditions and he disagrees with Katara, he also doesn't back away from finishing what he started, enforcing his rules and feelings that he was engaged in, and making an example out of her. And then once he finally decided to turn that around, it wasn't like he cheated her. He taught her and praised her when she was successful. So he wasn't, the evil guy. While he wasn't in position at the beginning, once he decided to change his mind, he wasn't half-assed about it. He, respected
Right.
Katara for
Okay.
the hard work that she put in.
I'd agree with
That's
that.
true.
I agree with that. So he's good there. Let's see who we
Yeah,
have.
I agree.
The first, I forget his name. The first Fire Lord trainer. I put him as
A.
a C.
Jong.
You think an A?
Oh, see, I would put him at I'd put him as an A because I think his character is actually pretty deep. in his character interactions.
Then I'll put him as a
with
B then. 'Cause
Aang.
I don't.
I will put him as a B,
he's
but I
a-
wouldn't put him as an A.
Yeah, only because I think you're right.
Well, 'cause
If you're gonna tell me that John could be an A, then I'm a little confused why we still have Roku at a B. Then I'll put it that way.
Because Roku didn't
you're
do
kind of
anything.
giving but there's not as much on this. Like if you're trying to say he's got this deep thing on there, then it's like, well, the one episode you find about Roku is pretty darn deep about Roku.
He's afraid of his own powers. Well, no, it's not deep. It's just who he is as a character. Zhang, on the other hand, he's engaging the Avatar. He has inhibitions about training him, recognizing that fire is extremely dangerous. He needs to have other fundamentals under him. And he actually was more wise than Roku because it's Roku that forces Zhang's hand, which then again, he teaches Aang. Aang is disobedient. He's impatient, ends up injuring his friend, and is afraid to touch fire until the very end. And Zhang was actually right because he had a healthy respect for fire, where Roku's arrogance and pride actually pushed Aang in the wrong direction. So I think Zhang's actually a pretty deep character. Here he is.
I will agree with that. I wouldn't say that I think Roku was being arrogant. I think Roku was being
he was being prideful.
Somewhat pushy, but pragmatic.
I have learned the elements 1,000 times, and I will learn 1,000 times again, and blah 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 blah.
I mean, is it not the truth though?
It's
Is that not the truth of the statement though?
The problem that you felt
Aang wasn't prepared.
Well, Aang wasn't prepared, and then he was distracted during a moment, right? Something happened that interfered with him training him at the moment. So you took his Aang's childishness, right?
Nothing interfered with him.
He left.
No,
with him.
no. When he burned Qatar, nothing. He was like, "Let me just try it."
He was all excited.
And he got it. He made the big. He made the big.
He creates the
He makes
fire.
the.
But
He makes the big outward
Didn't he
thing, and
leave?
that's when Qatar gets burned.
Well, I still think he's the B. He, like I said, doesn't enough to really develop it beyond that. So
I agree. Like I said, I agree with
It's
that.
not
I
that
think
he's
he's a good
again,
B.
So let's see who we gotta knock out of here. Oh, the Rock brother.
C.
Yeah, I can't really push him past a C just because
Hataru.
Yeah.
he was only in the like two little.
He's just kind of
episodes.
generic rockbender number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
a little bit-
his biggest character development is growing a mustache between the first time you see him and the last time you see him.
right.
Seriously.
And this is
Well,
who is
I
this?
mean,
finding
that's
Jolie
it.
Bindo.
Trying to remember who
And
this
saving
is.
Jolie Bindo.
This is
So,
who is this guy?
That's
It's,
Sokka's
Bato.
father's best friend.
oh,
Bato.
that's who. It is. Oh, he's a C.
Yeah.
He's comic relief.
Yeah, he's just a there character.
He's comic relief guy. We'll put him next to the.
Oh, he's not
No,
comic
he's actually
relief.
not comic relief.
Yes, he is.
No, he's not
He's
comic
all-
relief.
No, he's not.
Sokka makes fun of stuff.
No,
He's like,
quite the
just like
opposite.
he's like he's the dry humor of comic relief because
Yeah,
Sokka-
he's
He's
Yeah.
the dry humor.
like,
Yeah.
You are your father's son.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, just
I call
like
this one
your
the stinking
father.
sink. The stinking sink. Ah, that's great, Dad. Just like your father.
Yeah,
it's
like,
so
just,
funny.
you're just like your father.
Dry. Yeah,
Like,
it's dry humor.
oh God,
Let's see who else here. Oh,
very dry, very funny.
Zuko's one-time date. I actually put her as a C because she actually had enough impact on Zuko for him to have a change of heart and like literally
Yes.
ill. Like when he had
Yep.
that one date with her, she doesn't have to develop as a character, but her individual date literally throws.
Well, it breaks his obsession on. It kind of helps him recognize there's other things I can do with my life than my lifelong obsession of capturing the Avatar and being redeemed to my dad, who doesn't even care about me.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
so yeah. Let's see. Okay, we'll hit some of the
It's just
animals.
cute.
Because I guess he
She's
could.
sweet.
Because I
No,
guess
she was
he
really
couldn't learn
nice.
that from Iroh after 3 seasons, but the one chick,
He
you know,
actually- he
typical.
would've been
Hey.
actually, like I know,
Power boners, my friend.
I know that like
Quit thinking with your penis, Zuko. Quit
let's
thinking with
see.
your penis.
Another. We'll keep knocking some C's here. The smeller girl who has the smelling nose thing.
Yeah,
Like,
her
to
character is just kind of
Yeah.
like,
I don't think she never really goes anywhere. She's kind. I mean, it's hilarious that Iroh is. I love the scene when she falls
That's a
on
li-
top of Iroh, and she keeps
Right.
moving,
Uncle, I didn't see you get hit. Shh.
and she's like, "Effing old dude."
and
It's hilarious.
she flashes this look like, pervert.
Right. It's pretty funny. I will say though, I wish
That is funny.
I've seen it funny
That
if
is
she saw
funny.
him later on after his bodybuilding workout, and she's like,
Right?
Oh, she probably would have been
Dude.
down. She would have been down for some uncle. Oh yeah,
Right?
she would be saying uncle a lot.
she would not say uncle.
Oh, she would, but it just wouldn't be that kind of uncle.
So we have Momo here. Momo's cute, B tier.
Fine. I mean,
Because-
putting him with
okay.
Jong's insulting, but okay, fine,
And then
whatever.
Appa is A tier because Appa legitimately whacked some crap out of guys and saved the life of the characters multiple times. So
Okay, that's fair.
Appa-
It's okay.
I
He
mean,
is
Momo's probably
tactically
saved
useful.
a life one or two times.
I mean, and
but
you get a whole episode about Appa.
Yeah, multiple episodes. When Appa's captured, literally Aang straight up pretty much melts down.
Well,
He loses
I know
it.
yeah, but Shepard's talking about literally an entire episode.
Oh, that's true.
His
Yeah,
path.
the tales of Appa.
Circus,
Yeah,
being captured.
it's-
Yeah, the tales, exactly.
Yeah, so pretty important. So let's see who else we need to knock out here. Oh, Suki
Purple.
is actually I would put as a
C. No, that's not Suki. Is
That's
it?
not Suki.
Isn't
That's
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 Avatar.
Kyoshi. Yeah, it's
you're right.
Avatar
Kyoshi,
Kyoshi.
Oh.
C
C,
character.
yeah.
She's like,
she only
Yeah.
because she only has. You're right. I don't know.
she's big, she's bad, she's powerful. And
She only has
what I really
minimal-
don't like about her character is she's like, I did kill Chin the Great. And we watch the story and you're like, no, actually, he kind of just died on his own. I mean,
Well,
taking
and
claim for
that's-
killing him is kind of
Yeah,
like,
but
Perspective.
Aang calls her out on that in the final episodes on Ton of the Turbo. He's like because she's like, I killed Chin the Conqueror. He's like, no, his stubbornness didn't. She goes, but if he wouldn't have moved, I still woulda. Like
Right.
if he still would have attacked
No,
me, I
and-
would
and
have.
that was-
So,
I
I would
that's,
have
so
rather
she
seen
kind of
that,
comes
though.
back to
I would have rather have seen that.
No,
I would have
no, I
rather have seen her
appreciate-
actually do it.
No, I actually like.
no, because it makes it good for the episode. For
Yeah, I
because you're
agree.
kind of cynical for Aang going. Aang wasn't guilty because she
All-
wasn't guilty. But then it makes sense for her to say,
That's
but
why
if he
the
would have
end-
attacked again, I would have ended him.
Right. That's why the end episode, as much as I, in the sense
I
of
hate
the
it.
show,
I hate that.
No, I think that since he's such a young character, I always thought that because they address it in the show, I do agree that there's a level of cop out where versus him killing the Fire Lord, but the reality
You think?
but the reality is that inside of the space, though, too, they have the characters that he's addressing and asking the questions to going, oh, yes. No, you got to go deal with this. And they say, you go deal with this. And they're like, you got to go freaking kill this guy. All his past lives, all his past
I have to
and-
disagree with you. I have to disagree because they, rewatching it, none of them actually really say you need
they
to go
do.
and kill him. Even no,
Yes,
because
they
each one of them.
do.
Yes, they do.
No,
Yes,
they
do.
kind of
Yes,
don't
they do.
know because
Yes, they do.
each one of their words.
You
No,
literally implied it with what she says, which she's like, I would have killed him because her
no. I
implication
agree
is,
with
would
agree with
kill him.
Kyoshi, but not
And
all because
and
like 'cause
Roku literally said I should have killed him. Roku literally says I should have killed him.
Yes. And
I
Aang
agree,
says
but
the same
what?
thing
But
at the very end.
every single one of them, their final when they say, "Here's my words of wisdom for you, Aang." Every single one of them is ambiguous because they go,
No,
"You
'cause
must be
Aang takes
decisive.
every take-
You must
No.
Because
No.
shush,
Aang's
shush. Let
decision.
me actually say what
Aang
they
says
are.
it.
No, shush, Phil. I'm just let me say what I'm gonna say here first. I'm already like 15 seconds off from the video, so stop it.
I know, which kind of drives me nuts.
Like I said, I think because Roku says you must be decisive. Then Kyoshi says like, I forget what Kyoshi says, but then you have the waterbender who goes, you must make an active role in your destiny. They all say things that obviously Aang makes it read that way, and obviously as the audience we're supposed to kind of agree with it. But at the same time, they're just saying whatever you do needs to be decisive, needs to be final, and it needs to be that. Now, obviously, that most times you go, well, that's death. But I have, it's like they leave that room in there for him to come up with a different thing that is decisive, that is final,
Because-
that is that. So that's only what I was saying on there.
Aang says, because Aang's commentary at the end of that is, I don't want to kill him. Aang
Yeah.
explains exactly what his past lives just told him.
Yeah.
That's Aang's commentary. I don't want to have to kill him, and all my past lives are telling me I have to kill him.
Yeah, because that's what he's
that's his
taking. But that's what
commentary.
he's taking. I'm just saying, yeah, but someone can take whatever they want from someone having a speech, though, right? Like, it's not like just because, someone could say X, Y, Z, and someone can still take it as ABC.
I said
How
I had to
are
disagree
you?
here.
Like I said,
how hard are you bending backwards?
We're
Better.
back. We're hopefully synced back up again. I apologize for that.
A little
Having
bit
some
better.
internet issues. So the argument really is it
Southbound.
ambiguous or not? Generally, I would say, so here, I'll give my last kind of thought on it. we've heard the argument. I would say Christopher's argument is that it's ambiguous at the end. And I think I disagree with that. And the reason I say I disagree with that is they designed it that all his past incarnations are saying you have to kill him. And Aang, it forced the reason why I don't think it's ambiguous is because it forces Aang between a rock and a hard place. It forces him between all his past selves saying you must kill him and his desire not that he was raised not to murder. And that's why as much I disagree with you, Philip, though, when you call it a cop-out, because the show addresses it with the characters saying you have to grow up and not act like a child. And that's why I agree in the sense of like, he's only 12 years old. I don't have a problem since it is a 12-year-old character going, yeah, you need to murder someone. Granted, it's a righteous
It's not
cause,
murder.
but you have to take their life. I agree. And someone who's also very pacifistic, raised pacifistic. And that's why I also love the one when he's talking with, I think it's Roku. And he's like, I get that you want to be like a saint, but your duty as who you are, your being, is not to be a saint. Your job is to protect the world, and to protect the world.
Well, I think that's the Airbender one that actually gives him the most.
She says, "Look,
the Airbender's the one that gives him the most.
The ultimate one."
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, she's like, I know you want to reach a total enlightenment, but she goes, but the problem is your job is to service the world. You can't completely disconnect yourself like an Airbender master can. Your job you can't do that
in the world. Yeah, and so I think that's
exactly
to me, why. Granted, like I said. Again, that's why I like that in arc as much as I do agree. I always felt not perfect, but again, it works for the character because of the ages because we are dealing with a show that is designed for technically 7-year-olds, but is loved by everyone of all ages because it is so well written overall. And I can excuse an element where they're like, yeah, we don't want to have a 12-year-old kill someone on screen because that would
there could have been a better way. They could have done something different. The reason I feel it's a cop out is because they've never introduced energy bending until it was like, let's come up with something.
That's true.
And it wasn't something that had laced itself through.
They do reference they do hint at it, and they do reference the lion turtles in Wang Shitan's library, because there's a part where Aang goes, "Oh, look at it," and it shows a pig room. But I'm just saying there was already
not the ability to bend people's energy, just that those things existed.
Not exactly, because every time they kind of talk about like some of the first benders or what it was, they maybe don't go energy, but there's a little kind of some sense that it is kind of they're talking about energy being bended.
I've never had a problem with energy, Jimmy. Anyway, moving on. We're going to continue this, otherwise we'll get stuck on one topic. No.
They learned from the animals.
Not all of them.
There was no energy bending. Yes.
They were given the ability to
the waterbenders learned from the moon. Is a moon an animal, Philip?
Okay. But they didn't learn about energy. It was learning from the moon. Whatever.
No, their people were given.
But everyone else learns from animals. The bull badgers, the dragons, and whatever Appa is. Sky bison.
Yeah,
Sky bison.
But we actually don't know the history. That's also, I would say, the only I'll disagree with that on that count is because we know there's been at least 1,000 previous avatars, so which could be about approximately 9. If you said each avatar list lived even like 70 years, we're talking tens of thousands of years that the avatars have existed in the world. To go back and claim that exactly the origins of everything through lore, when we know the level of technology, I would say historically, I would say generationally, they did learn things from.
But see, then you're just retconning, though.
No,
these are what they told you.
I'm saying that inside the space, just like Toph learned earth bending from the badgers, we know that they were given the ability from the turtles to allow them to tap into it. They never said the turtles taught them how to use it. They were just given the ability, and then they had to go out and learn how to do it themselves. And we also know.
Well, no, we didn't. They didn't know that. They made that up later with Korra.
I'm okay with that, but it doesn't contradict with any of the stories. Anyway, let's move on to this one because we're down too far down the rabbit hole. So who do we have left on here? We need to hit. So
that's just.
I would say.
Yeah, she's a B-class character. She's relatively well rounded. Mm-hmm. She continues her liking of Sokka. She respects Sokka's deference and humbleness towards her. Sokka's probably one of the most beat up characters known to mankind.
Yeah, he's comic.
He takes it well.
He is the comic relief somewhat, and you do kind of feel bad for him sometimes. But she actually likes him and legitimately likes him, and she actually has a very cuteness to her that I like as a character, especially rewatching it. She has enough screen time that you're like, oh, okay, this character is pretty cool. She doesn't have enough agency in the story to really adjust anything. Otherwise, she'd be an A tier. But her part is relatively minimal inside of it.
It's true. Yeah.
In a show, if I was, in a show like Avatar: Last Airbender, they're trying to do this live action one, and she'd be a character I would probably put and expand her role in the story by removing some other, like, because anytime you start doing a show, you have to kind of tighten things up, and I would probably bring her storyline in a little larger because I think she could have a lot of interesting stuff with her people being a little more, because that's a trick. That's the hard thing. Because you have all these shows redoing stories, right? They're coming in, taking an animated show or a live action, or taking an animated show into live action. And it's such a hard thing because you have to translate a visual medium, right? Like, Christopher and me watch enough, and anime, and there's a lot of shows that look really cool in the anime space, but animated wise, but that translating into visual live action is really hard to do, and so.
Definitely not going to be the same magic.
Yeah. And so a character like that, I think that you do better by expanding their role in a story and then removing other characters in the story. Because, and again, you have to take, the first thing I would do in a story like this, you have to lay the entire story down and go goals, because there are other areas too, is do you want everything to be the same? It's a tricky, does every story have the same, or do you rearrange some of the story elements to make it more sense? Because in the beginning,
are you telling me you need to sit down and make plans? How dare you?
I know, right?
That's ridiculous.
You should you need to actually storyboard your story so there's a layout.
That's obscene.
And formatting and outline.
You just for it and then make the next person do whatever they want. And if they burn it all down, then you have to restart.
Episode. Yeah, and so I think that's the interesting thing with a show like this is that unless you're going to do an exact remake, I don't know if I want to. Except that's.
I hope not.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's boring.
It's because if
that's just rewatching the same. Yeah, that's boring. Can't do that.
I feel like if I was to do a rewrite, and I say like a live action rewrite, I would expand her character, and I might even bring her on the group more because she actually has the part where they're doing the crossing over the Dragon's
Serpent's Pass.
Serpent's Pass, and she was actually a welcome add-on to the group. So I would expand an element that she's not maybe a full-time member of Team Avatar, but like
she's like Batman. She's a part-timer.
Yeah, she's a part-time in the group.
Part-time for the Justice League.
She's doing things on and off throughout the show that she's kind of in and out of the different adventures because of her thing. I think would be interesting to see.
I feel like here would be my fear. I feel if anybody did that though, you would do it well, Joel. But anyone else would do it. They'd probably then put Suki along, and then they probably make Suki and Toph like have this awkward fighting between Sokka.
Right. Yeah.
That would probably be exactly what they would do with it, and it'd be annoying.
That's the tricky thing too, is that with these characters, rewriting them in the live action, like we talked about this, I think briefly, which is they all should be older.
Yeah.
You have to make them all older.
Yes, they need to be.
They have to be. You never. Here's what you do. This is how you make it better. You never say their age in the show, in the live action show. You just never say their age. You just hire actors who are 18-ish, 18 to 22, and you have a Zuko who's like 23 years old, and you have all the other characters be over 18 and with a shaved head and
and no young adult writing.
Yes.
It doesn't need to be. It's not Degrassi, okay? It's none of that. That swill.
You look at like
Dawson's Creek.
Look at who's the guy that I forget his name. Who played the most recent Spider-Man? Not the most recent one. Well, even the
Tom Holland.
Even Tom Holland. Tom Holland or the other kid who played him before.
Andrew Garfield was the lanky loser.
If you shave either their heads down bald, like I'm not saying they're the right character. I'm just saying that their age size. They play younger. You play them. I mean, they're playing high schoolers and they're like 24 years old. That's the reality.
Right.
That's the reality with your character.
I'm tired of watching high schoolers superheroes.
I get it. The show in the original show he's 12 years old. The problem is 12-year-olds suck on screen when it comes to it. It's just the joke of it. It's the same thing as anime. Haha, it's hilarious that the girls are 17,
they tried it,
16
didn't work.
years old. And you're like, wait, that doesn't work in live action because a 16-year-old looks like a 16-year-old. A 14 looks like an actual 14-year-old kid.
Yeah. I mean, like for anime where there's always the joke of, whatever 16-year-old walks up and of course they have to have boobs. And then like one of them always comments like, they're like melons, they're coconuts. And you're like, They're 16. No, I don't see what you. I don't. Especially no offense, Japanese.
there are 16-year-olds out there.
Yes,
But
that's not, the
in
point
Japan.
Is, the point is that the characters have to be aged up. The characters have to be aged
because
up
to make
in
it
the space.
appropriate to watch.
Well, and because it
And just for
allows-
viewing enjoyment.
Well, it allows them to have that level of adult agency that, like I said, 12-year-old. Look at any. You look at the story like Super 8. Do you guys see Super 8? Those kids are like 12.
Yeah.
And those kids were like 12. And they're actually, I think the
Of course.
actors were actually like 16. They looked like little kids. And you don't see them, there's a
I
level,
know.
and that's the trouble too, because you start dealing with them fighting, that is the trick with the live action adaptation, is that in a lot of the battles, they just knock a character out. But or look at, like I said, the end scene. It's where the movie we should not speak its name of does this scene where they're like, there's a wave, and everyone's like, scary wave, we'll just run away. And we know that in the actual animated show itself, that wave wipes out the fleet, and we know that people died from that. Like, you just can't get around that. Be like, no, everyone was fine. No one drowned in the 25 ships.
There's lifeboats. It's cool.
So that's
Right.
No one
All
froze
75 of them.
No one froze in the ocean. Yeah. So that that's the thing. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, no one froze in the north in the Arctic. Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, the North Arctic.
Everyone's totally fine.
So
don't you remember all the people in the Titanic when they were in the water? They were able to live for 18 days or something or rather, right?
So now we're starting to hit our top tier
6
characters. May is actually a B tier for me because
I would say B.
she actually has the look.
She's pretty one note.
She's pretty one note, but she at least has that moment where she's like,
and that one note is goth.
yeah, she's goth, but she has that one note where she's like, I will defend my man because I love him, and I'll even take on the person who's terrifying the most of this planet. So,
right,
I respect her.
Yeah, to stand up to Azula, you got some balls.
Yeah, and then
of course, I'll admit, I don't think they really fomented that relationship enough for that. So,
well, we know that. Well, there's enough between them that I'm okay with it because there was a decent amount of time that passed. We know there's time.
I'm okay with it. And I think we could have seen more. Just like with
I
the
don't know if I
Dilate.
wanted to see more. But what I would say is the one thing about it though is that
don't need to see that.
The one thing that reality is with it is that we know that in reality their loyalty was through fear. I mean, we don't see quite the threat level that Ty Lee gets when essentially she's like, how about we burn you alive at the stake and then see how you feel after the trick? And she's like, yeah, the universe is telling me to join you. Because you burned tried to murder me in multiple levels, and I feel like if I say no to you again, I will actually die. So, these characters had similar.
I agree. Fear is definitely a driving factor.
Oh, it's only fear with them.
Creating
pure fear.
Oh yeah, all of her. I mean, that's why Azula's, the vision of her mom is exactly that. When she's losing her mind in the last few episodes, where she's like, "You try to rule all your friends by fear and intimidation, and it doesn't work."
So I'm gonna put Ty Lee is my personal waifu in the show. I'm sorry, she's hilarious. I think she's freaking hilarious. I'd hang out.
Sorry, she's hilarious. Joel's hilarious.
Joel thinks she's cute.
Euphemism. She's so funny.
I'd hang out with her. She's
got a great personality.
She does have a good, actually, she does have, honestly, you know what? She does have a great personality, and she actually would have fit really
ditz.
well.
I like her, but she's kind of ditzy.
She would have fit really,
I'm sorry.
Actually, I think she's far smarter. Now, granted, that article you sent me, Philip, when they're like, the real mastermind behind everything is Tyler.
that was me, which I found to be so hilarious.
That was the one that
she's actually the ultimate manipulator. She's been manipulating Azula this whole time. Are we watching the same Avatar? Which Azula are we talking about?
Clicks. That was just for clicks. Just please.
Way to go. Way to be a shill screen rant once again.
Yeah, no, that was ridiculous. But I will say she's actually far smarter than she gets credit for in the show. Like I said, actually,
I think she might be tactical. She might be tactical. I don't know if I would call her smart.
Okay, so continue on.
She's a vapid personality.
Toph. She's tier. Is Toph anybody's waifu here?
No.
No, we're not perverts. She's certainly S tier, no doubt.
She's a great character.
It's supposed to be naked. and barefoot in the kitchen, not naked, blind, and barefoot in the kitchen.
I will say the one thing I'll give the writers really big credit for that I think that they
Is all
messed
the
up.
blind jokes.
No, well,
Right?
those are funny.
Those are brilliant.
I mean,
They do a
the
great
amount
job.
of blind jokes that they make when Toph
funny.
shows up is hilarious.
But no, I was gonna say the one thing the writers do good in their shows that it's one of their strengths, and they do it in also inside of the Dragon Prince, which is kind of the more of a spiritual successor to Avatar. They do a very good
Yeah, you
job
mentioned
of dealing with characters with disabilities. Inside the show, they have a blind. Inside the show itself, they have a blind person. They have a paralyzed person.
Cripple.
Inside of the Dragon Prince, they have someone who's mute. So in those space, it's one of their strengths with story writing. They actually do have characters that have levels of disability as lead characters. Maybe not full leads. Well, she's the lead in the character show after she comes
is.
into it.
Yeah.
But they actually deal with the characters really well. It's one of their strengths. And so when they don't do a good job on stuff, you're like, come on, guys. But yeah, like I said, her addition to the show is probably it's a cherry on top of an already strong cast.
Yeah, she's
Sokka.
good.
Sokka actually is S tier, and I'll tell you why. He actually has a really good arc for a comic relief character.
Oh, certainly. Absolutely.
yeah.
I love the space sword arc was really good for him.
Best. One of his best. Yep.
You know,
Just-
he
was
grows
so good for
a
him.
lot as a character. Yeah, he doesn't grow like in
He might
he's
not grow. He doesn't grow. He doesn't grow. Maybe in the sense of power, like power level is like clearly a lot of these other ones does. But he matures and becomes
Yeah, it's
a grown man. I mean,
a
like he
mature
becomes
arc.
from being a little. He comes from being an arrogant little boy to a confident man.
That's it.
I mean,
Well,
that's
develops
really
a little
it.
bit of. He develops a little bit of cunning, which is imperative
Yes,
given the
yes.
fact that
Yeah.
everyone he's playing
Well,
against
he
has
becomes the
powers that he
planner.
doesn't have access to.
Well, and the other thing
Well, no,
too
no,
is
just not even just for planning, is that when you it's like the equivalent in our world. If you were to come up with someone who could bend water or earth or fire or wind, that's the equivalent of being attacked by swords and guns and freaking tractors, while all you have is your own skill set, your hands, with maybe something
Yes.
like a
He
long
learns
rod.
how-
You know
he's
what I
a
mean?
planner.
That-
Yeah, I think
that requires that requires a lot amount of courage and stick to itiveness, and like I said, a real cunning to
Well,
yeah.
he has a
to
level
be able
of
to
bra-
circumvent and tactically deal
bravery,
yourself
too.
around.
He has a level of bravery and like I said, he has good agency inside of his character, and he grows, like I said. And I would say the only other thing, talking about his character specifically, actually too, brings up the other topic I would say in the live action is in this show. I think the entire adventure happens in like a year or like half a year because the time that
It
they're,
needs to be longer.
yeah,
It needs to be longer.
I've always said that. In fact, if I was to say a live action, that the beginning story, it's 2 to 3 years is how long Sozin's comet will be there, and this adventure takes over 2
I agree.
years because it allows Aang to have that time to actually grow. Because when you look at Fire Lord, the previous avatars, and they're like, yeah, I was 18 years old, and then I spent 7 years training under almost I think it was 10 or 12 years.
I think
that
it was pretty much like
16.
It was about it was like 4 years for each element is pretty much like
Yeah.
their training type, and instead like Aang gets like 4 weeks for each element.
I feel like if you were like, oh yeah, you get all this amount of time, but in this situation, we're just kind of brute force training you. I'd have a lot less issue if you're like, oh yeah, it's been 3 years and you've trained over the last 3 years versus, oh, you've trained for 6 months type thing. I
Right.
feel like, and that
No,
would
I
allow
agree.
The actor to grow and all the characters to grow over time. That's one change I'd do.
Yes,
Let's see who next.
completely
here.
agree.
So we're gonna hit Azula. I believe
Azula.
that is Southham's waifu for some
My
reason,
waifu.
because
So in it's funny. Her character is maybe an A on the character level, as far as I'm concerned.
until the end,
'Cause she's,
actually, I
again-
would say, actually,
Yeah, exactly.
I actually,
She's
I agree.
one.
She's an S.
She's
an S.
one note. She's one note through
But she's a-
90% of it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying she's a bad character, but she only has one agency, which is screw. I'm just gonna do what my dad tells me, and I hate Zuko because I like to watch him eat it.
I disagree
Now,
with that.
at the end of things,
I can
she
prove that
starts to
wrong.
she twists. Just listen. At
Right.
the end of things, she
Oh,
starts to
he
expand
wants
her
us
character.
to listen
She's a,
and not talk.
she's a
over him.
little weak. Yeah, that's right. That's right. She becomes a little bit more vulnerable of a character, right? She's at the with the Ember Island stuff, with them hanging or at the Ember Island, with her having the boys not like her because they don't know who she is, or of course the big moment is when she gets betrayed by Dad. She sees it as a betrayal.
Right,
and she
right.
snaps.
Well, it's because it's already her betrayal of it's when May and Ty Lee already betray her, begins her.
No. That upsets her, but it's Dad because she's thinking I'm going to be at Dad's side, coming through and walk. And he's like, no, you're staying here.
Well,
she's already a little unhinged.
So I'll disagree. So I'll tell you what I think, and you're not totally off, at least to me. What I'm going to say is, so her character actually has a lot of stuff because her goal is you said the goal is to mess up with Zuko, but that's not her actual goal. Her actual goal is to destroy everything in her path and to rule the world, essentially. The reason she slowly goes
she's
mad,
almost more psychotic than Ozai.
Well, the reason she goes
her want.
The reason she goes mad is because at the end there, she does have her friends betray her, so it puts on her edge. But what happens is when she becomes Fire Lord and then he goes to be Phoenix King,
God of the universe.
The reason that throws her off so badly is because she wants the chaos, but she's literally put sidelined. It's not because she was betrayed; it's because she's sidelined and she lost her goal. So you'd have a character
that's what I'm saying.
Who's literally running. Do. I need to constantly be attacking, attack, scheming, and you remove every obstacle away from her. There's no Zuko. There's no Avatar. There's no sit here and look pretty. And she's like, everyone's killing me. I hear voices in my head. There's someone. You're trying to kill me.
Well,
because everything
that's why I agree.
And that's why
what I was saying.
Character, she is a great villain, and also because she's terrifying on so many levels because she is brutal, but she is, again, we talked this. Me and Christopher talked this yesterday on our last video briefly. And the difference is the Fire Lord is like, yes, let's kill him. And she's like, yeah, but before we kill him, what if we burn them and then skin them alive and then, cook them in a pie? How does that sound? That sounds better, right? And then the Fire Lord's like, oh, that sounds interesting. Let's do it. She is sick as a character. Like her mentality is she is
evil.
She is a deranged individual inside.
Well, that's my point. I mean, like I said, we don't get introduced that until significantly later. That's what I was saying. In the beginning, I would have just kept her as an A character, but then you get to see her past, where she's already a malicious, malevolent little squirt.
Do you know that? Did you know that she's actually introduced in season 1?
Yep.
Yeah, I know she is.
Do you know where she's introduced in season 1? And I don't mean the end. She's actually introduced in the middle of season 1.
She's there in the Agni Kai.
Yes, she's there in the Agni Kai.
I know. She's standing there right next to it. She loves it.
Yep.
Uncle Iroh's turning away, and she's like, "Yeah, eat it." She's like, "Eat that fireball." Yeah, she's like super excited. Yeah. But don't get me wrong. I know her character. Like I said, she's clearly a malicious character.
Because something I read earlier, they're like, when she's introduced in season 2, I'm like, no. She was introduced.
She's there cheering on, watching Zuko eat it in the eyeball.
Like, you already see how evil of a person she is in that moment. Because, like you said, Iroh turns away.
You just don't know who she is like you said, that moment.
No, she's just some chick. As far as you're concerned. That's my point. She's, like I said, her malicious character is always running through. I'd say it wasn't until they started to finally focus on her interactions where she moves up into an S character, and then again, like I said, that's why she's just freaking hot, because she's all about power, and you know what? That electricity is gonna get somewhere.
All right,
hey,
moving on.
I'm a powerful man. I need a powerful woman to bed. That's. But God. I will say, she's wife number 2. Millie Thompson is wife number 1.
Okay.
So Phil, would you say that a relationship between you and Azula would have sparks?
Yes. It'd be electric.
Electric chair. So, moving to Christopher's, now Katara is an S-class character, but
the people out there know what I mean. They know what I mean. You know what I mean, folks.
Hey, shush! This is about my waifu now. Okay, all right. My waifu. You had your moment.
She is great. She is obviously a great character. She has a huge arc. Both actually as a powerful character.
She's a powerful character.
She's
a master waterbender and healer.
Yeah,
she's not just one or the other. She is amazing.
She has a great arc. Yeah, she's great stuff.
She's amazing.
Yeah, she's a great character. She fits right.
She
you know,
is.
it's
She is a great
well-balanced
character.
So moving on, I mean, really, there's only so much praise you can say to her because she's just a good character, and her interaction with all the different characters.
I mean, yeah, she's
also
kind-hearted, strong,
and she's also like
amazing character.
She's also
a nag.
Characters. Yes, what I'm saying, because she forces sometimes their laziness, which is, you know, both Zuko and Aang and Toph are relatively lazy characters, and sometimes she has to force the agency into them. So she's also allowed to have that level of. It is the joke that she's like the mother, and they're like
the mom.
Yes,
yeah,
you're the mom. It's pretty cool. Zuko, he is
probably my second favorite character.
Yeah, Esther, automatically. Yeah, and he is the quintessential. I don't know if there's a better villain redemption arc in any.
Not that I've seen.
Maybe in literature there might be someone, but in the sense of anything, cartoons, live action, anything inside of the visual medium of storytelling. I don't know a better redemption arc. Mostly because it's such a long. It ties into we're just gonna put Iroh right here. I mean, really, the last couple characters. We're gonna put.
I think what really makes him important.
He's our
as a bad guy. He's our husband.
He's our husbando. Yeah.
As a bad guy, since he's not Azula powerful, and he actually has to earn every single thing he gains, it makes him a viable. Both you like him already, even when he's playing a bad guy, and you hope for his redemption. And so through the course of events, when it actually happens, it A, feels earned, but B, you know, you're picking up a character that actually has a lot of wisdom by making their way through, as opposed to an Azula type who's just like, oh, I'm a natural prodigy, I'm powerful, but I want more power.
But also too,
well, and I think Iroh, because Iroh mentions it himself, where I think he is speaking to Zuko. He's like, you know, you've suffered, you've worked, you've made your own path, you have created, you know, your own destiny, which is why you're a better choice.
Also, too, the reason that it is the long-term struggle with the reason his redemption is so solid is because it is a 3-season arc, and you have Iroh slowly. You know, it's the reason their relationship is so powerful, especially some of the sad moments and stuff. You know, it is his slow nudging of Zuko to find a better path. You know, and man, the scene that almost brings you to tears is when, you know, Zuko comes back to him in a tent, and he's like, "Oh, I've changed."
I thought you'd be so angry with me.
He's like, "No, I thought I lost you for good." I said to them, like, so sad.
Oh God, it's such a good, like, it is that moment, and then the moment that I've actually come to really enjoy. I know. Well, the other moment that I've actually come to really enjoy. The other is the final Agni Kai between Zuko and Azula, because, and I know someone had mentioned this one on I know someone had mentioned this one on like something somewhere, like, you know, memes or something, but it's really true. I love the fact that their fight, then the music that plays and the emotions between that moment, because it's not a bombastic like, oh, it is this solemn, like, you know, where him and Azula are fighting is such a great scene. Yeah. It's like, yeah, no, it just compounds that last bit, because like he is so, and it's also cool because actually technically, you know, that final move he uses to beat Azula is technically like a more airbending form. When he does the little kick and swirl, it's almost the same exact move that Aang usually does with the airbending, and that's actually kind of the move that he does.
Yeah, but he's done it before. But he's also done that move before.
Yeah,
a similar one, but it's not the same. It's not exact. When he fights the Admiral for that Agni kind, he kind of does it. It's not exactly the same. That one is a little bit more, and I think they're showing that he has kind of agreed with Iroh a little bit and understanding that I can take things from other forms and maybe build my own self up. It's kind of the way I took it a little bit.
I think that's reading too far into it.
I can't confirm or deny, I can't confirm or deny on that one, to be honest. But I will say that his, like I said, his development with the character, even their interactions when he comes to be like, "Hey guys, I want to join Team Avatar." I thought that was a very realistic thing, because, you know, we as the audience have gotten to see his change, development, and his heart change. But the other characters never saw that, right? They're stuck with, you know, this guy's been holding us down for months and had like a year almost, and essentially tried to kill us. And so for him to be like, "Yeah, I'm on your side now," is legitimately relatively unbelievable until he proves himself inside the story. And I think that's good. Him as a character.
So the real question is,
go ahead.
When does Iroh change to be to start focusing towards the goals of the Avatar? Because of course he's always with he's with Zuko the entire time, and he's all on board capturing the Avatar. Although it's very amusing that he's never actually there to capture the Avatar ever. But I mean, is it post the issue in the Arctic where he has to? Because we know he gets exiled permanently by that point. But then now, when does he decide? Okay, with this in mind, instead of re-encouraging ourselves to the Empire, where does Iroh say we need to hook up with the Avatar instead?
I think actually for a much longer time. I think pre the show, because we know he's part of the White Lotus Order far before the show starts. And so, I think that since he was the son of the Fire Lord, and given what we see, the Fire Lord prior wasn't as malicious as Zuko's father, Fire Lord. He definitely was
not even.
Yeah.
He's definitely not a friendly guy because he had kind of a Klingon style of honor. It seemed like more of a Klingon-y style of you
see his
make me Fire Lord over my older brother, and he's like,
you want me to denounce my first son after he just lost his own son? What the hell is wrong with you?
Yeah. So
but then he obviously then he get to still Fire Lord anger, and it's like, well, kill your son then. And Jose is like,
well, we never know if that was totally true. We just know there.
Oh, that's so true. No.
It's pretty highly
that's
likely. So but the point
that is so true.
The point is though that I don't think he had.
Well, Ozai admits that he was going to. He said it was his. He said it was his wife that stopped him from doing it.
Willing to do it, but the point is, you're right. Actually, I'm wrong there.
I think she poisoned Fire Lord Azulon. Is kind of the you're right. He killed the thing there.
So, but the point
your
is,
mother committed great treachery that night,
right, which helped me out.
Yeah, you sound a lot like Mark Hamill.
So the point is, you guys are missing.
Try my best.
Let's get to the point. No,
I know. Yeah.
So the point is, is that the key as his background doesn't come from such a evil perspective, I think, and he's like, and like I said, we know that he wasn't. Like I said, he's part of the Lotus for a long time. I think he was doing what was his duty, being what he was, and he was duty bound per se. But I think that's also why when his son died, he was like wrecked, and I think that was the change for him in his story arc was him trying to redeem himself too. But he was wise enough to know, he's kind of a paragon character. He's kind of wise throughout the show. He's obviously a lot older too.
Sure.
So I think he's one of those characters that
from the tweens.
Yeah, he's one of those characters that wasn't. We don't know where he's gonna fit, and I think they allow him to melt along with Zuko because he's kind of that foil to Zuko. He's trying to temper Zuko, and you can't. It's almost that thing where he's like, if I tell, because obviously he wants to tell Zuko more, but if he told him, hey, you should join the Avatar, Zuko would be like, traitor.
Yeah, exactly.
Traitor.
So I think he has to bring him along on the ride.
So you think the entire time he was always on Team Avatar?
I don't think he was necessarily. I'll put it this way: I don't think he was necessarily Team Avatar, but I think he wanted
team balance.
He wanted He was, or more than anything, I think he was Team Zuko redemption. I think his biggest thing was more about him wanting to, because I think he kind of like when he even mentions in that little bit where it's the tales of Ba Sing Se, and he goes, when he's he's having the memorial for his son, he goes, I couldn't help you.
Well,
it's like,
but he also, I think here's a better example. He values life because when the other general's like, I'm going to kill the moon spirit, Iroh's like, no.
Like you will destroy the balance of the world.
He doesn't believe in the anarchy. So
and at that point he'd already been in the spirit world as well.
Yeah. So I think that we know that. Also, speaking of that, we know that he learned firebending from the dragons, and as a young man, and he didn't kill the dragon. So he had enough wisdom early on. But we should actually do a longer talk about Iroh later on. We can deep dive into him as a character. Let's go to our.
I would love to know a lot about him.
This is our final one here. Aang is obviously S tier. Because he's the lead of the show. Great character. I mean, he's just he definitely falls into like the lead. you know, he's forced to make changes. He becomes powerful.
The straight man.
Yeah, he has a sense of humor. He's likable. We like him and Katara together as a character. And he does work, even, and he's a great character because he works with all the
Katang
other characters.
bitches, suck it.
Well, and he's a great character because he works well with all the other characters. Because you look at he works well with when him and Zuko have their scenes together. Throughout when they have their kind of bonding later in the show, it works good. Him and Sokka work really good. Him and Toph work really good. Him and Katara work really good. Him and Iroh work really good together. So whenever he's put with another character, he is allowed. He balances that character out really well. We don't ever feel like there's two Aang. So he's a really well balanced protagonist. Especially because, again, he's tricky too because you don't want him to be, and he's not a Mary Sue, even though he is the Avatar.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was the key. They kept him from turning into a Mary Sue character. Yes, he's naturally talented because he's designed to be that way, but nothing's ever given to him. He suffers a lot. He makes poor choices that end up in causing him problems down the road. Actually, it's funny. He's undisciplined. He's a punk, and so you make it so he makes him believable, and that he's not like, oh, I can control the elements, and he shoots lightning out of his hands instantly. He's like, well, okay, good enough. Chewie. Oh no, okay. Oh wait, sorry, wrong. Oh, that's right. Wrong place. But it's funny. They kind of do steal the Star Trek, The Empire Strikes Back, because he's finally hitting his final point of meditation, finally hitting the Avatar state, and then that's when he sees his friend being tortured or captured.
Oh, I know.
That's exactly what happens in The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, that's true.
It's a total mirror of that situation, but it works because it gives it motivation why not to continue what they're doing realistically, and defeats them. It causes them problems, and it causes them a huge issue, which was great. It caused more motivation to continue through the characters.
It also forces, because it also, what it does really well too is it takes away that story beat, takes away his ability to go into the Avatar state,
God power.
Yep.
Yeah. And so
exactly.
It does is it handicaps him.
Rid of the Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. Essentially, yeah. Exactly. And which allows him to be there in the final battle where we actually want to see it, versus it being like, oh, now he's fighting these powerful characters, and so what it does, which is it helps with the power scaling, because what you have all the characters becoming more and more powerful throughout the show. Toph, Katara, him having more elements, but it takes away. Goes, okay, now you're up in your elemental powers, but now we're taking away your god tier power. So you have to be powerful in these ones then that way you're not capping here. And so it was a really smart storytelling device that kind of forced, and again, it's great for his character development too, because all that was about was character development too. Because think about it, he didn't want to surrender Katara, even though you don't really need to surrender Katara. The point was you need to free yourself up in your brain about different things. And so since he wasn't willing to do that, it wasn't so much he looked at it very simply versus the kind of larger scale going, oh, you can't tie yourself down to this one specific moment.
Exactly.
And I'm sure you can do a much deeper psychology part of that scene, because I think there's more layers to it. But it was really well done, and that's all the characters. So I think it's I don't really have any. I'd say what's interesting is that almost most of the villains are the A tier. Pretty
right.
Stuff.
Well, it's because you need good bad guys. You need to have good bad guys to overcome.
It does have good bad guys. So
and that they miss that in most media today. The bad guys are paper thin.
Yeah.
They're just generic intro bad number one.
In the future, we'll maybe do some more Avatar stuff, talk at the show, especially, obviously we know there's a live action show planned. Who knows when that'll come out. If that show ever does come out, we will definitely review that episode by episode whenever it comes out.
Certainly.
Because I think that it's one to at least talk about and critique through. And we'll probably do some more in-depth ones in the future, because Avatar, The Last Airbender is I would say, an important show, because anybody can watch it, anybody can enjoy it, and it is one of the pinnacles.
It's a textbook study and good characters.
Yes.
It really is.
Character arcs. So thank you both for joining.
And Azula, I'll see you at 8, baby girl. Bring the outfit.
Oh boy. Well, thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Shepard and Southampton, for making me bleach my eyes.